So what happens to Xbox now? What's the strategy going forward? That's a question a ton of people, including myself, have been talking about this week, and welcome to the Jampack Report, which is where we're going to try and address that question. Because I think that Microsoft's strategy going forward is a lot simpler than you might think, and maybe even that they think. I would hope not, but I'm going to give my 2 cents here on today's show, and I want to preface this by saying this is not going to be another armchair analyst prediction of when this deal closes, if it closes. I'm not going to be pulling quotes from Michael Pachter or another analyst that are talking about it. It's not what I'm trying to do, because there are people out there that can do that way better than me, so there's no point in me trying to do that. What I am going to do is talk about this from the point of view of somebody who plays games. I almost said a player. No, I'm not that. Dedicated man. But I want to talk about this as somebody who plays Xbox, who is impacted in my daily gaming life by these decisions and by the strategy Microsoft is putting forth, because I think that's a really unique perspective that a lot of you have. Everybody that plays games ultimately has. So to get into it, let's just touch on the news itself. The UK has blocked Microsoft's acquisition of Activision-Blizzard, in case you hadn't heard. If you're on any kind of social media, you probably heard. Now, the reason over this is super strange, because they chose cloud gaming concerns to be the reason that they are denying this merger. And this was shocking, number one, because it seemed over the past couple of months that Call of Duty exclusivity had been the real concern. Sony, of course, has been in the news. Jim Ryan's been flying all over the world, along with people from Microsoft, to defend their position, to say that this deal shouldn't go through. Call of Duty might go exclusive. And in response to that, Microsoft has signed a ton of deals with pretty much everybody under the sun. They've had a non-verbal agreement, or I should say a verbal agreement, a written agreement with Valve, but they have not inked a contract because Valve has faith that Microsoft won't make Call of Duty exclusive. They have signed a deal with Nintendo to bring Call of Duty to Nintendo platforms for the next 10 years after the deal closes. Those are pretty big signatures on some pretty big contracts and agreements that are being had between companies. That seemed to suffice the needs of the CMA. So everything was on the up and up. We thought this deal was going through. This seemed like a non-issue. The 26th of April came, the last day for the CMA to announce their decision. Lo and behold, blocked over cloud gaming because they think that Microsoft, because they own Windows and because they already have a foothold in the cloud gaming space through Xbox, is going to be a dominant force in the cloud gaming market and could stifle competition as the market grows for cloud gaming services. Lots of issues there from my point of view, because you are protecting an industry that doesn't exist yet, or at least a segment of that industry. You are protecting the interest of companies that have yet to be incorporated. That's a weird approach. This feels incredibly strange. So that's my point of view on that. Now, Microsoft is going to appeal this. They have said as much. They have made plenty of public statements around that. And the other interesting, weird skew here is that NVIDIA, who signed a 10-year agreement with Microsoft to bring ABK deals, or ABK games, I should say, to NVIDIA GeForce Now, and Boosteroid, who had the exact same deal, they both come out and said that they are in support of this merger/acquisition. They're ready to go. They think it's going to be good for the cloud gaming market. So what you have is a government body that is directly contradicting the market that it is so saying they are protecting. That's a really awkward spot to put the CMA. So appeal seems very unlikely to succeed. I just don't think that it's going to happen. I would love for it to, and I have full faith that the magical lawyers over at Microsoft are pulling all of the strings to try and make it happen. But now is the first time in this whole conversation over the course of the past year and a half where I legitimately feel like this deal may not go through. This seems like a real elbow drop killing blow that could be the nail in the coffin. Could is the emphasis there. Don't know if it will be, but it could be. So now we actually have to ask the question, what does the future look like if the ABK deal doesn't go through? What happens if Microsoft basically resets the board back to January of 2022? I think is when they announced this. Let me think about that. Yes, January 2022. So they're back to where they just acquired Bethesda effectively, and they've got a strong lineup of Xbox first-party studios that are putting out good content. ABK is not a part of the situation at all. What is the strategy going forward in 2023 from that spot? And I have a surprise for you. It's the same exact strategy whether they have ABK or whether they don't. But before we get into that, I did want to go over and talk about the statement from Phil Spencer as reported on by Bloomberg, because it gives a little point of view that confirms their strategy isn't changing, at least not all that much. So Dina Bass over at Bloomberg reports, quote, Spencer told staffers that Microsoft President Brad Smith was up at 2 a.m. Seattle time Wednesday, drafting a response to the UK Competition and Markets Authority. He said Chief Financial Officer Amy Hood, who oversees acquisitions, held a senior leadership meeting the same day. The Xbox chief said the acquisition was intended to speed up Microsoft's gaming plans, but doesn't represent the entirety of the company's gaming strategy, which would move ahead even without Activision, the person said. The CMA said concerns about the deal could not be solved by remedies such as the sale of blockbuster title Call of Duty or other solutions involving promises to permit rivals to offer the game on their platforms. According to a statement on Wednesday, Microsoft said they will appeal the decision. So this is really unique for me, and I'll zoom in a little bit so you guys can see it if you're watching the video version. The Xbox chief said the acquisition was intended to speed up Microsoft's gaming plans, but doesn't represent the entirety of the company's gaming strategy. There's a lot that goes into the gaming strategy side. And I'm not going to pretend to know all of it. That takes an entire team of hundreds, if not thousands of people to make happen. What I will tell you, as somebody who plays Xbox games every day of the week, they have to dial it in and deliver good games at a good cadence that people love to play. It's as simple as that. That's your formula. And of course, you can extrapolate that out. You've got to build strategies around that. You've got to make these games happen, and that takes planning and years of creation and things like that. But up until this point in the generation, as an Xbox player, there have been more disappointments from the first-party teams than there have been wins. And I'm just calling it how I see it, because comparing it to the competition, there have been fun experiences Microsoft has delivered. But I have had few experiences that are on that same level of a Spider-Man, a God of War, a Last of Us. And I know those are the three that people throw around, but it's the truth. If we're talking about these games that match the same energy as the Xbox Series X reveal trailer that was shown off at the Game Awards before the console launch, that trailer was something epic, something magical, something otherworldly. It was bringing a new experience. And right now, I don't feel like I've had much of that. The best experience, the best game I played on Xbox Series X is Forza Horizon 5. Beautiful game, runs incredibly well, performance options, a high fidelity mode, whatever you want. It plays and runs very well. Is that a console seller? Depends on who you ask. From my perspective, probably not. It is for some people, but not on the same level as a Spider-Man, not on the same level as a God of War or a Last of Us. Doesn't have that same energy yet. Siri said she's sorry, just to let you guys know. But going forward from that, what we have had are fun experiences that are on a bit of a smaller scale. Halo Infinite dropped. Could have been something massive and epic, and to some degree it kind of was. But going forward, the multiplayer support, lack of campaign DLC, and now mass changes at 343 have thrown the entire future of Halo into question. That was their flagship franchise. Gears of War, nowhere in sight. Of course, Gears 5 did get the next-gen update. We have had Hive Busters, which is neat, but as far as a big mainline Gears of War game, on ice, potentially something on the way from the Coalition, that's exciting. We have Avowed. Elder Scrolls, Starfield is coming. We've got all of these promises, all of these potentially good games that are on the way. But right now, again, looking back on the generation we've had, Halo Infinite and Forza Horizon 5, along with Hi-Fi Rush, those are the three big Xbox games that I can think of that have come out. Now, along the way, we've had your Groundeds, your Minecraft Legends, and like I said, Hi-Fi Rush. Those just aren't on that level. They aren't console sellers. They are nice to haves. They are definitely niche appeals for people, or they appeal to niche communities, but they aren't that same God of War, Spider-Man, Last of Us. We've got to get something that's on that cinematic scale. And like I said, going forward, we've got promises. We've got Avowed. We've got Elder Scrolls 6. We've got, on top of that, Starfield launching this year. We've got Forza Motorsport, another racing game, but it looks very nice, very beautiful looking game. We've got so many games that are on the way, so many cool projects, but that's all they are. They're games that are on the way. They're promises of what's to come. We haven't had a lot of games that have been delivered this generation from the Xbox first-party studios. We've been playing the waiting game, and quite frankly, I'm getting tired of waiting. I think a lot of other people are getting tired of waiting too. And the generation for me has still been a huge win. There have been awesome third-party games that have come out, and there have been some games that have made their way over to Xbox eventually. Of course, the Ghostwire Tokyo example is the most recent that's on my mind, but that was a PlayStation 5 exclusive for the entire course of 1 year, finally came over to Xbox. And even then, another big issue arises. Microsoft seems to be running into some performance issues, whether it's the Series S holding it back, which I don't think it could be, but it may be. Again, I'm not an engineer. I'm not a software developer. I've heard people complain. I've heard other people say it's no issue. But Ghostwire Tokyo does have a couple of hiccups. On the Redfall side of things, the game is launching at 30 FPS. That's not great. And so you've got these optics issues as well that Xbox is dealing with. And so across the board, we've got okay games from first parties that have released this generation. Couple of bangers, don't get me wrong, and a great experience with Halo in some ways. But we also have some that are just middling, that are kind of, again, Game Pass accessories. So that's coming from the first party this year. We've got a lot of promises that have come. We've got a lot of exciting expectations for the future. But those are just expectations. And then we've got games that are coming and they play worse on Series X, or they don't play as well as they could. Maybe it's poor optimization. Maybe it's one factor or another. But those are the three factors Xbox is dealing with right now. And so, once again, coming back to the strategy that I feel like Xbox is aligning with, whether ABK is acquired or whether they are continuing on the path they were before all of this acquisition talk even started. Bring good games at a good cadence that bring great experiences for people. That's the strategy that they've got to nail. And whether they do that with the existing lineup that's coming, Fable is another one that comes to mind, really potentially awesome experience there. Or they do that by bringing ABK into the mix and talking to those teams, figuring out what games they want to make, relabeling Diablo 4 as an Xbox Game Studios game, putting that splash screen at the beginning, new Call of Duty games that come in the years ahead, slowing down that cadence, putting out fewer Call of Duty games at a higher quality with maybe more meat on the bone. No matter what that looks like, ABK or otherwise, they've still got to make the games play well, look good, fun experience. They've got to put out good games. It's as simple as that. And so going forward, I'm looking forward to seeing if this deal closes. I would love to see it end up going through because I think that right now Activision-Blizzard King is in a weird spot. I think that they've got a lot of potential, and I think that they still put out incredible games, but I do think that Microsoft could help with that. I think that it's a good fit. If that does not go through, I don't think it's the end of Xbox, but I think they've got to keep going on that mission. They've got to recalibrate. They've got to really take a step back, double down, and say, all right, what can we do now? What should we recalibrate? What should we reorganize? What are we bringing to Game Pass? What games are we going to prioritize in the marketing campaigns? Because we've got to prove to people that this box is worth buying, or this subscription is worth subbing to, or this PC is worth building. We've got to prove to people that Xbox is the best place to play. That's ultimately the goal for PlayStation, Nintendo, Xbox, across the board. They've got to convince people that their box, their service, their games are the ones where they spend their time, because we've all got a very finite amount of time to spend, and it takes a lot of convincing for some people to go ahead and dive in. So those are my 2 cents. ABK going through or not, I'm not sharing my thoughts on that. Personally, I would love for it to do. You never really know. But strange little monologue episode of the Jampack Report. I thought I'd go ahead and just spew my thoughts out there. More to come in the rest of the gaming news for the week on this week's episode of the Jampack Report that launches on Sunday. Look forward to seeing you guys there. But until then, you all have a fantastic weekend. Remember as well, don't take life too seriously. Log off of the social media and enjoy playing some games. I'm about to dive into Star Wars Jedi Survivor myself, so good bit of stuff to look forward to this weekend. I'll catch you guys on the next one. Have a good one, and as always, keep on playing.